Welcome to the second video on installing and configuring a virtual Whitewater cloud storage gateway. My name is Chris, and I'm glad you're here. In the previous video of this series, we saw how to install a virtual Whitewater cloud storage gateway. With it now installed, it's time to start it up and get it configured. The configuration of the virtual Whitewater appliance will be done in a few parts. First, we'll configure networking so we can access the web user interface. Then we'll set up the rest of the virtual Whitewater appliance using a combination of setup wizards as well as web pages within the GUI. This will configure the connection to Amazon S3 Cloud Storage, as well as configure the necessary front-end network connections for later when we connect Semantic Backup Exec to use the Whitewater appliance as a backup target. Since this is a virtual Whitewater, power on the VM via the VMware vSphere client and select the Console tab to watch the startup. Eventually, the virtual Whitewater will display a login prompt where we will enter admin as a username and password as the initial password. During the very first startup of a virtual Whitewater appliance, you will automatically be prompted to start the configuration wizard, which we will use to configure the initial networking. Follow the wizard and provide networking information as appropriate. DHCP information can be provided, but in this example we'll configure manual networking for the virtual Whitewater appliance. Note that all entries can be changed at the end of the wizard before being committed, but in this case we are good to go and will press enter to submit the changes. Now that the virtual Whitewater appliance has management networking, we will access the web GUI interface to continue the configuration. Use Firefox or Internet Explorer for the best experience. When presented with the Riverbed login, enter the ID admin along with the password. We didn't make any changes to the default password, so we'll just enter password here as well. After the login occurs, the web GUI Setup Wizard will appear, and we will configure the initial system settings, which mostly mirror those of the Console Setup Wizard. Note here that we'll change the time zone to match our current time zone. After the System Settings Wizard is complete, we'll next enter the Cloud Settings Wizard to establish a link to Amazon S3 Cloud Storage. Enter your credentials into the appropriate field and provide a region for where your data will be stored. Note that the bucket name must also exist in the region and will be the bucket name entered in the last field at the bottom. If you were provided a license token via email, enter that into the field here. Otherwise, click Next to create a new encryption key for the virtual Whitewater appliance. Click Next and review your changes, and then click Save and Apply to commit them. We will see a successful cloud check message box if the Amazon credentials, region, and bucket name were provided correctly. If you enter the license token, we'll also receive a message regarding the license token request, which we'll need to fill out on the Riverbed portal to get our permanent license keys. With the setup wizards done, the remaining steps are to enter the license keys captured from the Riverbed portal, configure a data interface on the LAN so the virtual Whitewater appliance can communicate with Semantic Backup Exec, and to create a CIFS share to expose to the network for backups. To enter the licenses into the virtual Whitewater appliance, we will go to Configure, Maintenance, and then Licenses. Expand the Add a New License section and provide the base license and cloud capacity license provided from the Riverbed portal. You can enter multiple licenses on separate lines. Click Add to add them, and they will show up under the license area below. To configure a data interface, we will need to go to Configure, Networking, and then Data Interfaces, and in the page that appears, expand one of the interfaces and provide IP information for the interface, followed by clicking the Apply button to confirm the changes. Repeat this for additional network interfaces that you would like to configure. Finally, to configure CIFS, we will go to the Configure menu item, Storage, and then CIFS to set up a share to use with Semantic Backup Exec. If the virtual Whitewater appliance will administer security to shares via Windows Active Directory, provide the domain information first and join the Windows domain. After that is done, expand the Add CIFS Share section and fill out the name of the share that you want to create, the local path on Whitewater where it will be stored, and optionally a comment to describe the share. We will leave the checkbox Allow Everyone Access selected, but in typical deployments you'll want to remove this and create individual permissions. This is done after we click the Add Share button, as you can see here. The Add a User or Group section is automatically displayed below and allows you to configure per user permissions to the newly created share. With the share created, the virtual Whitewater appliance is now ready to accept backups from Semantic Backup Exec. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the final step, configuring Semantic Backup Exec.